Today is February 11th. It's the DEI advisory meeting. We'll start with attendance, go around the room and say who's here. Erin, we will start with you.
Sure, Erin Earl, School Committee Chair.
Andrew Propetier, North Kingstown teacher.
Mary Lowe Presti, Parent Disability Advocate.
Jennifer Lima, school committee member.
Kalia Schmerer, community member.
Will Moss, senior at North Kingstown High School.
Allie Sensi, Equity, Belonging, and Community Engagement.
Sue Curley, school psychologist at Quinnesset.
Okay, awesome. Thank you all for being here. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from our last meeting on January 21st?
Motion to approve?
Can I get a second? Kalia? Okay, all those in favor?
Sorry.
Aye. Okay. All right, next up is a update from Allie. Allie, I will turn it over to you.
Okay. So over the last, since we last met, in terms of the equity and belonging portion, we have, I held the first student focus group in response to the DEI survey. It was amazing. I'm actually going back on the 25th. We had such deep conversations that I didn't even get to all of the questions. But we did, they were very solutions oriented, open-ended questions. The students were just amazing. The way they had such fantastic ideas. I'm gonna like sum them all up from all the groups and send them along. So I already did send them those to Rob and Kenny. But they just were focused on, you know, not just their perspective. They kept trying to see it from the teacher's perspective. It was just phenomenal. And they gave us a lot of fantastic, very doable ideas. And that was kind of what we were hoping for. So there's some stuff there that we can even start enacting, you know, right away. I did create that DEI checklist, brought it to Ad Council. We trimmed the fat on it a little bit, and so I redid it, shared it out to Rob for approval, so I'm still waiting on that. But that is completed. In terms of the wellness piece, we have the anti-vape poster contest. The kickoff is the week after February break, so the 25th and the 26th. We're gonna roll out the project. The CTE students are working on, they're currently working on the trifold. They're gonna have that done by the end of this week. Hi. And then, per the DEI committee, per this committee, we did the Spanish on one side, English on the other side. There were resources there for anyone who needs to quit. So we did incorporate everything that we talk about here into that. And then the elementary schools are all set for the week of March 16th to March 20th, where Brown University Health will be coming and presenting Power Wars. So every elementary school is involved in that. And then we started up the workplace wellness team again, and this month we have an Invest in Yourself bingo challenge. And so, you know, it's just a little bingo card. It's got little, you know, meditation, yoga, whatever is on there. And the school that has the most bingos, we're going to do it by percentage, so it's equitable. They will earn a breakfast. And then in terms of community outreach, the job fair at the high school is underway. You know, it's a lot of moving parts. It's scheduled officially for April 15th from 8 to 9:30 a.m. I've been going back and forth with the chamber. They have a list of all of our CTE programs, so that we can actually like job match the students with the you know, their skills to the jobs. And then the next, I'm to attend the next chamber meeting. I think it's the first week of March, with Madeline, the woman I'm working with, to just kind of answer any of their questions. And that's about it. I had the clothing closet on there, but I think that's on a pause for now from the Office of Family Learning. So I'm still trying to sort through where to go with that.
That's wonderful. How many students were in the focus groups and how were they selected?
So the focus group, the first one I went to was the student government.
Okay.
There were some competing practices and stuff that day, so it was a smaller group than typical. So there were about 7 kids there. When I go back, they anticipate the whole group will be there. So the week after February break, everyone should be there. And those students actually directed me to the next like set of students that I should be interviewing. And so I met with Shivali, we talked about that a little bit, and then we set up a meeting for Monday, March 2nd, I think, where we're gonna really just figure out which groups we're going to go to, just to get a real, like, diverse population.
And is it just going to like established groups, or are like individuals going to be pulled into the groups?
So we kind of bounced both ideas around, and I think that's what we're solidifying on
Yeah, we're
Monday,
trying to-
right?
We both are gonna talk a little bit, we wanna
Mhm.
see how we can get like a really good mix. And I do have a principals advisory committee, which is really the kids that would probably help us,
Mhm.
and they are on Monday, so I'm gonna throw this out to them to say, hey, how do we, give us some ideas how we can get,
Okay.
we wanna get a good mix.
Okay.
Yeah, and we wanna make sure it's like a diverse.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome.
Good question, on the job fair.
Mhm.
Did we talk about this at the last meeting, or is this new? Because I'm
No,
not
we
familiar
did,
with-
we did talk about it, yeah.
Okay, is it just for CTE are these like students who are about to graduate, or is this just summer employment for anybody?
So it's two separate, do you mind if I?
Which, what are we talking about? I'm sorry.
Alright, so
Job
it's the
fair.
job fair, so it's two separate, it was really kind of in the infancy stages, we've done a lot of work since the last meeting. So there's going to be two separate situations happening. There's one room for, it's only, all the, employers wanted 16 plus, so it's just for juniors and seniors. But there's a room for like summer jobs where, I talked to, is it Chelsea from, the
rec
rec
department?
the rec department, right, where they need counselors and things like that, so someone from the rec department's going to represent. So that'll be like the summer job area, and then the job matching is, talking to Tory Plastics and stuff like that to get the actual CTE students and the pathways students kind of matched up with internships or apprenticeships. So it's kind of both. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, no, because I have a thought of a place, like,
Yeah?
because one of my goal, like, I always wanting students to be exposed to their peers who
Mhm.
are different, maybe neurodivergent. And I think of like some of the agencies in the area, North Kingstown, South Kingstown, that are always looking for like home-based workers and for kiddos with disabilities. Now, I'm not sure if their age requirement is 18.
Okay.
So, in thinking that would be somebody that would be more likely to be like a senior.
Would you have like a contact person
Yeah.
I could reach out to?
Yeah, and I think because, just in my own family, having a child who
You
works
thinking
in the.
about like what Christina does?
Yeah, it's just been life-changing, and there have been significant strides in raising the hourly rate, so it's just become more appealing, very gratifying.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe we
And
can.
somewhat flexible depending on your,
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know what I mean? So
Yeah.
people in college
Yeah.
can potentially work around with their family around their college schedule and, make a good amount of money toward
Mhm.
college. So I
That's
think it's a
fantastic.
great idea.
I think it's a fantastic idea too.
Yeah, so
Um,
maybe we can talk at some
I would
point?
love
Yeah,
to, if
yeah.
you want to, if you could email me and we can set up a time for
Yeah,
like a phone
okay, that
conference
sounds
or what
great.
have you. That's fantastic.
Okay, awesome. Anybody else have questions on Ally's report?
I just wanna thank Ally because she's like really jumped in and she's already all over the place, and people already know her, and so thank you for doing that. And the kids, obviously, they're lovely, but they also appreciate someone's asking them. It's very nice, thank
I
you.
appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda was just to get an update, and this was before your time, Ally, but kind of like what the status was on the rollout of the equity vision statement. So I don't know if you know or if anything's happening.
I do not, all I know is that we had the draft, and from what I understood, they were sort of waiting for the approval. Did it get approved?
It did get
It did get
approved, and we
approved,
had
so now-
started
I can give an
at the
update
end of
on-
last year with the
Yeah.
rollout,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, we had a 3-tier approach, and so we had gone through, created the vision statement, and then the first was trying to get the word out to our internal community.
Okay.
And so I think we had gotten some things sent out to the schools. We have it on our website, and so some of those things did happen. But we needed to, I think, do a little bit further work in that area about trying to get people to really understand that we have it and what it is. But then also we wanted to then, like the next phase was supposed to be the external community. So kind of publicizing from North Kingstown School Department
Oh.
that we have an equity vision statement to the like community members, town council, different things like that. And so there's a whole document
Yeah,
that I
we
can
had a
find
plan,
on
like
it.
a plan.
But I do think we,
I can dig it out.
Jen will find it, she's
Yeah.
quicker than I am.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
And we this committee had brainstormed some really good ideas about ways that we could do that and different things. So I think it's just figuring out how to get some momentum back on it. Cause I would imagine if we surveyed the school department, students, faculty and staff, like we'd probably be at like 60% staff and like 20% students. Shivali thinks that's generous.
I
So
I
It's
think that's
generous
high,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
we told them okay, that's
I
fine.
still think it's
No worries.
generous.
Okay, no worries. So some opportunity to internally, I think, work on it and then start thinking about how do we
Yeah,
make
and
sure.
I think we had, at this committee, like said, like a rollout plan, but we had left like the actual implementation of the
Yeah.
phases up to the administration, right?
yep.
Isn't that how we had left it?
Yep.
Okay,
So we
so
just need to
I'll dig that out. and then-
reinvigorate,
yeah.
if you will.
We had
Okay.
a plan of doing something at the PD day, but then I can't remember what happened. We did the whole choose your PD thing, but.
Yes,
get-
and
it did
that
get
was
announced.
the
Yeah.
official,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
the official launch.
It 100% got
last
launched
May.
in
Okay.
last May.
So
Yeah,
I think that was
100%.
like our launching
Yeah.
point, like in person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
think
feel
we
like
did
it
it, but I think
launched
that's-
and
And then died on the vine.
That's
Yes,
right.
that's pretty much,
So
yeah.
yeah, if I can try to resurrect, if you could
I'll
send
dig
me
it
that,
out
that
and I'll
would be
send
great.
it to you, yeah, I'll dig out what we have.
Thank you.
Okay.
So-
Maybe I got confused with vision of the learner.
True, because we had
Vision
that
and-
too.
Yeah,
I think we just lost the ball. The ball is in space and we will find it.
that's okay. I know where it is and I will bring it back onto
Yeah.
the court.
Yeah, we did make progress though, and it is, it did get announced to the faculty at that spring PD. It is on our website. It is in correspondences that we send out. I have seen it in some of the newsletters. Like, it's not nowhere,
Right.
but I do think we need just a little bit more effort and energy to really make sure that people are aware of it, because this committee did such a good job writing it in a way that it is tangible. And it's also like a message to the faculty, staff, and students of, like, it's very actionable of like, we will create equitable policies, we will create procedures and things. Like, we tried to make it not just words, for lack of a better word. So here we are.
Okay. And then the next thing was update discussion on the inclusive language guidance that you all had discussed. But Ally, was that what you referred
That's
to
what-
in your
yes.
thing? Okay.
So it is completed, it just needs to be, now that it's been trimmed, it needs to be approved, so.
Okay. And was that reviewed by this group?
It was approved for this group, I guess. It was reviewed by ad council. So
Okay.
Rob asked if I could bring it to the ad council, and then you were there. We all kind of made sure that it was really, really clear. It was a little confusing in some parts.
Okay.
And then I trimmed it all down, and then I haven't had an opportunity to show Rob what I've trimmed down. You know what I mean? So I just need to get his eyes on it. He has it in his email, but I just want to get his eyes on it, and then I
So-
think it was supposed to come here next for approval, correct?
I think, I wasn't at that meeting, but my understanding from watching the meeting was that it was coming here first
Oh, here first
and
for approval.
then there. I
My
wasn't here,
apologies.
but was that my understanding of the meeting conversation?
You're looking at me like, I'm not gonna remember that, I don't know.
You,
Oh, I'm
so-
sure I said it and did it, I just,
Yeah.
we
Okay,
had a
so,
late meeting,
yeah,
so-
my apologies,
Yeah, no worries.
when I did it and handed it in, that's, because it was so cumbersome.
Because for this committee to provide input
Okay.
on what was on it, so that it would get
Okay.
presented to the administration
Okay,
for their
I did it
approval
backwards.
review.
And I think
Anybody who was
that
in the room that day?
No, yeah, it's coming back.
Okay, backwards.
We were here really late last night for the school committee. I'm trying
Yeah.
to, it's buffering. So yeah, I think with that said though, like, I think it's fine for it now to come here. But I do think like getting a little bit more background on like what was originally there, what the admins cut or changed
I can
might be
show you
helpful, like
both.
that history of it, just so that we're then not
Yeah.
re-editing what they edited, if that
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
I can show you both of
Yeah.
them for sure, and
Yeah.
if it's okay to like give it to you guys, I can just email it to you guys, but like, I don't know if you want that.
No.
Yeah, if I don't have to wait for Rob, that's totally fine.
I don't know I can't speak for Rob.
I don't see why,
But,
I mean, check with Rob, but.
Yeah.
I'll ask him tomorrow when I see
Yeah.
him and just say, hey, they wanna see it, can I email it?
Yeah, that'd be great. And then I also think, like as far as where that will go from this committee, it would be, like this committee doesn't approve anything. It makes recommendations to the school committee, and then the school committee can make recommendations to the administration. So depending on where it lands, it might just be input from this committee, that goes back to the admin, and then they can do whatever they want with it. Or if it impacts like policy or budget or something like that, that's when it would go up to the school committee to circle around. So it might just be some feedback from this group, and then can be rolled out, would be my kind of sense of where it lives in the
Yeah.
hierarchy of chaos.
Yeah, like I don't think, the school committee
Yeah.
wouldn't approve it, but I had thought that the intent was to have this group have like input on it before it went to the administration.
Okay, well, here we are.
Sorry, yeah, I did it
No, no,
backwards.
that's okay.
My apologies.
Okay, so yeah, just talk to Rob and then we can.
So we can put it on the next agenda?
What?
Yeah, I'll talk to him and I'll get it, I'll grab him tomorrow and then get it out to you ASAP.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, now, does everybody have a copy of the policies? Ian, did I give you one?
No,
I-
you didn't.
I had emailed these too, but some people.
I only have
I'm just
one.
kidding. You only have yours?
I don't
We
like
need
kids,
it over
or you
here.
can have mine.
No, it's okay. I'm kidding.
I already read it.
Of course. I know. These are different. Okay, nice division.
I literally shared that I recreationally read things like that.
So, these are, the one with the red lines is the current draft that Rob has been working on to revise it. The one without the red lines is the current discipline policy as it stands, which I think was last revised, I don't know, a long time ago, hold on.
It'll say, 12, need 12.
12,
Yeah, so clearly, it's a little out of date. So, one of the things that's come up as a common theme every time we've talked is discipline. So this is an opportunity for us to have input on the discipline policy as it's being revised. So I thought it'd be a good chance for us to walk through it. I printed out both because I don't know how well you can see the strike
Yeah, that's
throughs
helpful.
on the red. So maybe we just start, I don't know whether anybody had reviewed it beforehand, but maybe we just start going through it from the top.
The English teacher did.
Hmm?
The English teacher did. Yeah, I think even if people did go through it, just going through the top
Yep.
might be helpful because people may have suggestions or ideas or questions, so just kind of chunk it out like we do at policy would probably
I'm
work.
just trying to find my copy, hold on one second. And then I'm gonna make a DEI copy of this. So that I can make comments as we go through.
The red line one is.
Rob's,
Oh, Rob's.
yes, so this, the clear one with no strike throughs is the current policy.
But like who did the red?
Rob did,
line?
Mr.
Rob did,
President.
yeah, Rob has started working on it.
So then we're providing input,
Yep.
but then this is like a policy subcommittee thing.
Yeah, once we look at it, it'll go to the policy
Gotcha.
advisory committee, yep.
And so we can either be like, yay, we love what's in red, or we could be like, oh, like we'd like to we'd like to work off of what Rob wrote. Or we can look at the original one and say like we like the original one better, or we want something completely different. So like there's a lot of options on where we
Okay.
land. But I do appreciate Rob taking the time to go through
Yeah,
it for the
for
first
sure.
time.
So the first thing is the purpose. The original policy said the purpose of the policy is to promote desirable student conduct and establish a uniform code of student discipline governing the activities, conduct, and behavior of all school students while in attendance at school, on a school bus, or at school-sponsored activities, and including the provision for the enforcement of same. And Rob has said, he's updated it to say the purpose of this policy is to promote a safe, supportive, and equitable learning environment for all students by defining expectations for conduct, establishing a continuum of behavioral supports, and ensuring fair and consistent discipline procedures across all North Kingstown schools.
I like it.
I'd like it too.
The one thing I would say though is as we continue, there's 3 chunks there. And so making sure that the policy has a section that defines expectations for conduct, right? And then has a section that establishes a continuum of behavioral support, and then has it that ensures fair and consistent discipline practices. Like, we have to make sure that the policy addresses those 3 things. If not, we need to circle back to the purpose.
I also do think that we need to define where this policy does apply, right?
Like physical location.
Say more.
Like initially, the policy said, at school, on a school bus, or school-sponsored activities.
Yep, so we need to maybe define expectations for conduct and
I think that needs to stay in.
the original sentence.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it can. I think it, or in defining like the scope of the policy, or defining the, like it might need to not be as literal in the purpose.
It needs to be somewhere, I guess, yeah, and maybe it is later, I'm not sure.
I'll try to work, yep.
Yeah, like.
What are
where
others?
it's applicable.
The only weird thought I had was, is there any way to phrase it
I know what
like
you're gonna say.
not so student centric, like to have it like be a community of the building, like a way that's like this is like a norm for everyone, not just the students, but like the teachers, the staff, the faculty, everybody, that we should all, you know, try to get along together and have norms that we should all follow. Like the way this sounds like, it sounds like, oh, we just assume all the adults know how to act, and like the students are the ones who have the problem. And then sometimes students reach out of like, hey man, this teacher like came at me with like a really bad tone, and I didn't appreciate it. So that's why,
So
like, I would like it to be more, I don't know.
Would
no,
you
no,
rather-
I hear you. I think, and we can double check, but I think that there are other policies that, and the union contract and the Rhode Island teacher, whatever it is, standards that cover that. And so I'm usually the one that says what you just said about policies, but I do think in this particular thing, it is about student discipline, because if not, you're gonna get into the union language, and like, you're gonna have to go deeper. And but I like the philosophy, and maybe that's where it lives, of like, student conduct is a responsibility of all, and like, we all model a bit, like, maybe there's some way we can work it in, but I
Something like
don't
that,
think
yeah.
it can apply
Okay.
to staff, just because of the,
I just didn't know
Yeah.
because the verbiage of purpose, I thought it was like the overall like philosophy. That's why, like that's why I was thinking it there. I wasn't thinking it more in like the title. I was thinking more of like the overall like purpose is we want to be a community of
to set expectations.
professional,
Yeah.
positive people. you
Yeah.
know, so.
Just so you know, we do have a personnel, policy, professional conduct with students policy.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying though, it's like, this is about students, but there are adults involved, like there are teachers and
'Cause we
folks
have to
involved in
model and
this,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so,
Well, I actually think, I mean, this isn't gonna answer your whole question, but just add, safe, supportive, equitable, blah, blah, for all students and staff. I mean, this does apply to creating a student for all, and their discipline stuff is not just, so I could see just adding something there, saying student and staff, to start to get to your point.
Yeah.
My only thing with that, my administrative hat, we do have a conduct policy separate for personnel, right? And the reason because this is a policy and we kind of use this policy sometimes to reference like incidents and like where it's coming from. And there is a lot of appeals that happen to the policy language. It's like you have to be really careful, because your language, if your language is tricky, like the person making the appeal, you're making it difficult for them. Like it's,
No, I hear you,
No,
but I
right.
actually almost think that would, but I'm not in all those discipline things you are, but to me, that would be a reason if a student is not is behaving in such a way that a staff person is unsafe, well, that should be applicable to this should be applicable to that, right?
Right, but it can also be converse where, well, the student is behaving this way because the staff conducted it, you know, contributed to it, which happens all the time, but two separate policies apply.
Mhm.
You do you know what I
If
mean?
it's cleaner, then I'm okay with it.
Actually, reading ahead to philosophy, it looks like Rob has kind of addressed this by saying that students and adults share responsibility for
Yeah.
maintaining an environment conducive to learning. So that is a little bit kind of like touching on that, but we could, I think, maybe expand on it a little bit by saying, you know, something more along the lines of what you had said, Andrew, where it's, we're
The-
all part of the collective, you know.
The other thing too is this committee gets the great joy of raising questions. They do not need to solve the problems. So no, it's cool. I mean, we're gonna have to solve it later, but like Jen and I are on both, but like we get to say, hey, we really want the policy subcommittee when they're thinking about the language to think about this. We don't need to write the sentence.
Yeah.
And so we can note that and we can make, and then that nice group of people can take a look at it. So I think we have to make sure we don't get stuck, Jen, because I will get stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I also
literally
don't
word to
remotely
thing.
disagree with anyone
Yep.
with saying the
Yep.
the other thing I'm bringing up too is just simple writer logistics of like the first thing is probably the best place to put something then further down because a lot of times people don't read further down. So that's why I brought it up. It wasn't like I'm against anything. It was just like the writer in me is like, you know, start it off in the beginning because most people don't get to the end.
Yeah, that's a good point. So. Noted. Any other thoughts on the purpose?
I mean, I always worry a little bit about fair and consistent meaning different things to different people, but that's probably just an ongoing problem all the time.
No, so, are you taking notes, Jen, or do you want me to?
Hmm?
Are you taking notes or are you gonna rewatch it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because this probably happens more to you than me, but I'm definitely in discussions where we have feedback about this is what my son did and what is happening to the other person. What is their consequence? How is that fair? And I don't know that this policy can address that, but that word fair is like, I just do think it means different things to different people,
If,
so.
if you look at number 5 later on, it clarifies a little bit by including due process and consistency in all disciplinary actions. I don't know if that does it for you.
There is an opportunity to, it doesn't have it in this policy yet, but for definitions. And so I do think that you hit a good point about fair and consistent are not,
Exactly the same.
yeah, it might, like, you could be fair and consistent, but the outcome could be different for you versus you, like, depending on, like, the process is fair and consistent, but the outcome is not
Right,
always
that's what you're trying
consistent.
to get at with the due
Yeah.
process.
Yeah,
And
so I
that
think those two
absolutely-
words, we probably should have them think about.
What's the theme that kept coming up, like, every time we would talk about discipline, right? Because it is this, but it's not these words, right? Like, the common theme that we heard from students, like, that discipline was not being enforced consistently.
Yep.
Yeah, so consistent, I think, is more the theme we heard more than fair,
That's
is what
interesting.
I'm
Mhm.
remembering from conversations. But I could be remembering it wrong.
No, that's the word.
Yeah.
I mean, also you have your sign outside that said like, fair is not the thing, it's like what's fair for success or something like that, that black sign out there that I was looking at. So it said like, don't go for fair, go for like what gets people to a successful outcome, so.
Mhm.
I'm paraphrasing, it's right out there, I don't remember what it said exactly,
I know which
but
one you're talking about, yeah.
it's like the word fair is kind of, gets very subjective.
Mhm.
So am I hearing we don't love fair?
We don't love fair.
Okay.
Well, I think we need to, if we keep fair in, I think you have to define what fair
Yeah.
means and what
Yeah.
consistent means, or you need to change it.
And I think
Yeah.
this is in the purpose, I think if we read further, I think
Yeah,
it just
well-
like, kinda like
Yeah.
gives
maybe
you
we'll
some
have
more
to-
direction on what
Mhm.
that
Yep,
fair
yeah.
would look like.
Yeah, so we might wanna, we might circle back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a good
Maybe
teacher
you
would
could
tell
pick-
you, you write the introduction last, so maybe you write the purpose
Okay.
at the end, right? That would do, yeah?
Depends what you're writing.
Super glad you taught me that, I think.
Very fluid, you just write what,
Yes.
the first draft is just blah.
All right, so I'm wondering, after having gone through this paragraph, if there's a better way to go through philosophy. Anybody have any suggestions?
On how to go through it or what we think of it?
No, how to go through it, like original versus revision, or,
I would start with the revision, probably.
Okay.
And then if we wanna reference back to what it was.
okay. So the North Kingstown School Committee believes that schools function best as safe, caring, respectful communities in which students and adults share responsibility for maintaining an environment conducive to learning. The school committee, with the assistance of students, parents, guardians, and staff, set forth the following policy in order to preserve and maintain such an environment. The policy is based on the following principles: maintaining safe, inclusive, and supporting environments that promote academic success and school belonging, recognizing the shared responsibility among students, staff, families, and the community to uphold behavioral expectations, modeling respect, empathy, and self-discipline through adult behavior and school culture, fostering open, proactive communication between school, home, and community, ensuring fairness, due process, and consistency in all disciplinary actions, protecting every student's right, including freedom of expression, provided that such expression does not infringe on the rights or safety of others.
So do the students, parents, and guardians, I presume the staff, know that they are assisting in this? Like how is that collaboration going to be established? Is there still a requirement at the beginning of the school year that parents read through? It used to be, remember they used to have like individual school handbooks and you would sign the back, and
Yeah.
I know that was a long time ago, but then I think it sort of progressed to
online now.
on
It's
Aspen,
online
yeah.
now. Yeah.
So therefore, so would parents be expected to do that so that if their child were involved in some disciplinary action, we could circle back and
Yes.
say, yes, you
You signed off on
this?
the handbook.
We can make that note.
Okay,
And we generally take the handbook sections and look at if there is a section that has a policy already, we generally take the policy language and put it in the handbook instead of creating our own, so that everything matches.
and the policies, are they consistent across all of the schools, or is there variation?
It should be all across.
It should be, policies at the district level, so
Okay.
it should be the same at every school.
JICD, which is the existing policy, all of the schools' handbooks should be in compliance with it, JICD. I do think, so, a philosophy is a belief, it's supposed to be like our belief, right? Like, very high level philosophy. Purpose is like, what is it meant to do, like, what is the goal? And so the list of, like, principles, which is another P in the scenario, like, I think some of them are like philosophies, right? Like where the philosophy is trying to maintain a safe environment, like we want school to be safe, right? But I don't know if all of those are philosophy-y. I also don't know if we care, but that would be my feedback, is that some of them are more purpose-y.
I don't know, sometimes I like agree with you a lot that sometimes when you add a bunch of bullets, it like takes away from a philosophy. I don't know. I kind of would like more like a more holistic philosophy, and then not have the bullets of like underneath it, because the philosophy is supposed to be like a overarching goal, like ideology that is fluid and that you kind of.
Yeah, like the philosophy for me in conduct is that students are part of the solution,
Yeah.
and that all students have the right to due process, and that we listen and respect our students, like, during the conduct process, like that sort of thing,
Mhm.
like, versus, and not, what Rob wrote is not
No.
bad, but some of that is like the purpose of this policy is to protect every student's right.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
The
there was-
purpose of this policy is to ensure fairness, like, so like, maybe some of them move up under purpose, and then philosophy stays more like, we believe that students should be respected and treated well, no matter what they did.
It looks like he
And I would love to hear other people's thoughts, that's just mine.
he reworded the 6 bullet points.
Yeah.
Yes.
Instead of combining them into a paragraph, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, for the ease of it, or whatever. But yeah, I think if it's rearranged as a paragraph.
Yeah.
Do other people have thoughts on like the philosophy part? Like I rambled off a couple, but are there other thoughts on like what is important from a philosophical standpoint?
I'm still stuck on fairness in here, but maybe that's just me. Like, I do think due process and consistency, but
What is fairness?
I don't know, just, like coupled with fairness, I just keep getting a vibe of like, it's
Do you know what fairness means? I'm very excited. Ready?
what?
Fairness, the definition of fairness, and is impartial and just treatment or behavior without favoritism or discrimination.
There you go.
But that's not what my
but that's
brain
not
thinks.
what my brain
No.
thinks,
Nope.
No. So we should probably
Maybe
just
we
write
need
that.
to, yeah, write that up.
Yeah, impartial and just treatment without favoritism or discrimination. Like that's what it is fairness apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my brain, I don't know,
Would
fair
say
use.
no,
Yeah.
it's
That's
just
not how
Impartial and
people
just treatment
use it.
without
No,
what?
not at all.
No,
So
they use it
good.
the way you said, like,
They
well,
use
my
fair
kid
like
got
in
suspended, why
sports.
didn't this
Yeah.
kid-
They use fair and like fair and follow in sports. They don't use it like a philosophy. They use it like you're out of bounds, you broke a rule.
You broke the law.
Yeah, it's like fair or foul and
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to.
that's how it's in our lexicon because sports is so important that we've made fair the sports analogy of fair.
There's other definitions that reference not letting your personal feelings bias your decision about others, and that I think is part of what we're trying to get at as well.
Agreed. I think there's a piece missing from the philosophy where, like, there should be like an educational learning
Like that
piece.
restorative piece.
Yeah.
I
So I
feel
think
like it
that's
should
kind
be
of-
more of you're a community trying to make a harmonious community versus like you need to assist the teachers and assist the school committee and assist this, like it's like even under the parents and stuff, it doesn't talk about like parents having a voice at the table, it just talks that they will help the administration enforce it on their student, you know, so it's just like this tone of like fair, you know, there's this tone of like there's this agreed upon rule, and if a student breaks it, we all have to like help get the student in line with the rule, and it's not like a discussion point of like like equity and stuff, like it just has this tone of like we know better, and like you better fall in line with the fairness, and then if you don't, everybody better support us getting you in line with fairness. And then there's a lot of nuance missing from that, like what is the biases of the teachers and the administrators to what is fair and what is appropriate, and does it lack tone, does it lack nuance, you know, so.
I think some of that would be, if we do include more of an educational piece,
Yeah.
some of that would be, you know, it would be included in what you're saying.
I mean, my biggest complaint when I was reading this and annotating it was that I just personally feel that, like, classroom management and classroom problems are a disconnect between the teacher and the student. So that I would say that's like tier 1, and like the student and the teacher are supposed to talk. The student and the teacher and even the parents sometimes talk, and then when that goes awry. And this is where I think the disconnects happens with the teachers. When a teacher goes to admin or goes to Aspen or goes above classroom management that's off the record kind of, they like just release it into the ether, and then they're not part of the conversation anymore. It's just
Yeah,
like,
it's not
it's like
restored.
I did this and no one has to talk about it. Like you don't get to question me, I'm a teacher. And then I just think part of the due process should be that they're not suspended, they're not tardy, they're not cutting, they're not anything yet. Like that's like what the teacher said. The teacher says, I have a problem, I need to get other people involved. So then everybody comes to the table, and then the teacher has to be at the table looking at the student, looking at the parents, and looking at the administrator saying, this is the problem. And then the student needs to be able to answer that and be like, this isn't a problem. And the reason I think of that is because I myself did it the wrong way. Like I referred a student to Aspen, and then the parents, petitioned it. So we had a meeting with all the administrators there, and then I ended up having no stress because I didn't even get to speak, and the student recreated all the problems that I was talking about, like right there. Like they couldn't self-regulate, they couldn't, be social, and so I didn't have them to speak. But what I would have loved if I hadn't written the Aspen thing, if instead I just wanted a meeting that Andrew can't regulate in a classroom environment, let's discuss it. So then if Andrew can regulate himself in the meeting, that's kind of making a good case that he doesn't actually have a problem. And then the parent might get an alternate solution than suspension. The parent might be like, hey, you're telling me that Andrew cannot process discipline and you're worried about him ever holding a job. So hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we amend the suspension, and I'll get Andrew a job at Stop and Shop, and if he gets that job and can keep it, can we get the suspension off the table? Because Andrew clearly can do a thing. That would be a conversation with everyone without the outcome already made.
Yeah.
And then because if you do that, right now what we do is the outcome is made and then you have to fight it. Instead of having it be a question that let's get everybody on board with an answer, and then sometimes the answer might not be what the administrator wants or not what the teacher wants, and no offense to the teacher, you need to be in the room and look at the kid and the parents and say your behavior is inappropriate because maybe there's a bias there. Maybe the kid was using an inappropriate swear word in friendship with someone else. And then you have to own that that's on you as a teacher, that you're not accepting that as because I myself as a teacher, I have kids swear sometimes. I don't do anything about it because they crush their finger in a desk. I'm not gonna look at you and be like, what's your problem? I'll be like, they just crushed their finger. Let it go. So that was my thoughts. Sorry.
What I heard was, outcome last, conversation first.
Mm-hmm.
Teacher being at the table and being involved in the conversation, a lens on problem solving and conversation, and then also some lens on context. So I feel those are some things that the final policy should have.
That's all the restorative stuff
Yeah.
that we're hitting on there.
Yeah.
Did
I get the gist?
And I do think we have a lot of the elements. I think it's just logistically, we often take the flu shot after we've had the flu.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. I think we have a lot of things in place. We just have to logistically tweak it.
Okay,
So if we,
The one thing, I'm thinking in a very simple way of what is one thing that is really most important that generally lacks when it comes to this is just plain old treating the student with just respect and dignity.
Mm-hmm.
Any situation, every situation, regardless of what has occurred, right? I think at base level, that's where everything goes wrong, if that doesn't happen. And I was looking at the bullets here, and it's there, but it's really more about modeling respect. But that's one thing I feel very strongly should be in the philosophy somewhere, whether it's a bullet or going back to how you were saying philosophy is just one sentence that captures everything, but all the other things go up to the purpose.
I think it'd be longer than one sentence, maybe one paragraph,
Yeah,
but
something. So I just wrote down just really quickly, treat every student or situation in a situation with utmost dignity and respect. That has to happen every single time, regardless of what happens. Non-negotiable.
And I think, Jen, words that we should define, if we leave fairness in, most certainly defining fairness, because really grounded myself on that one today. And then also defining respect and defining dignity. There are actual definitions for those words that I think if we use them in this, we have to define them. Because they all mean a little bit different things. But I would agree with Shirley.
Would equitably work instead of fairness?
Yeah. Equity.
Because
The
I
other
have
thing
it
we
right
the
here.
other thing we have to worry about is your point's awesome. I was just thinking about, I was reading this article, I forgot the source, that's really bad. That about DEI, like the verbiage of DEI has become almost like trigger words that like people look at them with like, as performative or, so that's why we also have to be worried of sometimes like, you know, sometimes we put so many words to like label that we're being conscious, we're not conscious because we're overcomplicating it, you know, so that's the only thing. I like that word, I'm just saying like, don't add like definitions and all these things because then it's gonna make it
Fun
like,
fact,
you know.
fair is in the definition of equity.
That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I have it in there, it's,
We're in a circle of chaos. I like it though.
I mean,
And just is in the
Yeah,
definition of
that's
equity
what
too.
I do like equity better.
Yeah, we can definitely think about that, Will.
if we wanna like drill down equity and fairness, I think what we're looking for is that the response to misconduct is going to be applied consistency and consider, like individual circumstances and student needs. You know what I mean? So I think that's like everything that you just said, like, I think kind of both what you
And
guys
that's
are
that
saying.
context piece too.
Yeah.
Like there's needs to be something in about context.
So if we need to break it down a little bit, I do think the education piece too, and I think there needs to be like a restoration of harm piece that's in there as well. I don't know where it goes in principle or philosophy or, but I think that that sort of sets the tone for that respect and communication that everybody's talking about.
Anything from you all?
Thinking.
I don't think.
I'll tell you one thing is I like listening to what everybody else is saying. You can see Rev really made a solid attempt at taking up this idea of discipline as rules and compliance. He made a solid attempt to go Rev for that, and it just sounds like this committee is not feeling that that ultimately captures what we want to see. So that's actually shows us the purpose of this committee. You know?
No worries either. I just always try to make sure.
You know, opportunity.
I think
I was
some,
just-
oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
I was just brainstorming, just in the interest of, like, we're trying to clarify and simplify and streamline it. So when I go to a student kind of discipline policy, like, I was actually looking for the discipline and, you know, what happens when a student does this or the results of that. And I almost like, not to say I skipped through, but all the wording and changes we're doing, like you said, like, sometimes we're not reading everything, right? We want the bulk of the information, so it's almost like the philosophy and purpose part else, just the idea, like, is that almost like separate from, or like, is it like a different section almost, like, you know? Like we're getting, we might be almost like confusing because of the different
You almost
parts
want to get down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah,
The
like I want,
actions.
this is the discipline
Or you want the
Yeah.
nitty gritty.
and the other stuff, like I don't even necessarily need, even though I know it's good and it's the philosophy of school, but am I here to read the philosophy or know like what's,
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think for me, like this discussion helps me understand what we then need to make sure is in the rest of the document. So like if we see something and it doesn't have, it is putting the cart before the horse, or it is like then we can fix it, because now like we kind of know, okay, like it seems like this committee really wants it to be restorative. It seems like we want whatever's in here to be XYZ. So I totally agree with you. I often skip right over the purpose and philosophy and go right into it. But I feel like now we have a good understanding of like what we need to make sure is in here, so.
I mean, that's a
good.
really good point, because it reminds me of like maybe we're making the policy so wordy and verbose, it's almost bureaucratic, and then it becomes almost like lacks authenticity, because like it doesn't get to like the core of the matter, so like you kind of have to do so much mental logistical work to just get to like the actual policy itself, so.
I always think of it as this. So if somebody said to me, hey, why does this policy exist? The purpose should tell you that. So hey, this policy exists to let students, faculty, staff, and administrators know what to do in situations where students break the rules. The philosophy of that is that we want to do this with dignity, respect, and kindness for students, right? Like, okay, great, we know that now, let's go, right? And so, I think like as far as where we're at, we can probably move on, and then, like, that's basically all it's trying to do, right? Is let people know that piece. Right? Let's go to the next part.
Probably did it.
Oh yeah, sorry,
I
Talia.
was thinking that probably the stuff in the rest of the policy is going to help inform what we want in the first two paragraphs. And if we've kind of determined that we wanna look at it like with a restorative lens, we can apply that to the rest of it, and then, but also like, we might come across stuff in the rest of this policy that kinda answers the questions we have.
Yeah, I'm just so everybody, I'm like taking stream of consciousness notes, and then I'm gonna like come back to the next meeting with like kind of sideline things, like to, what are you giving me apples?
Oh, I was wondering when it would go to policy, like, so,
Yeah,
yeah, let's just keep going.
okay. And just to make sure, like, I've got everybody's intent, like, I'm not making word for word changes, I'm just like, you know, kind of like, this is kind of what we're talking, and then we can make sure we're good, and then we can kick it out to the policy committee after that. So we can go back and, you know, I can cross out the beginning if we change.
I guess my point is that I think we should jump into the other sections.
To the meat, okay.
And that will help us determine what exact points need to be included in the
In the
very
top.
beginning.
Okay. Okay. So moving on, rights and responsibilities. Every member of the school committee has rights and corresponding responsibilities. Students have the right to learn in a safe and supportive environment, and the responsibility to contribute to that environment through respectful and responsible behavior. Staff have the right to work in a safe professional environment and the responsibility to teach, model, and reinforce positive conduct. Parents, guardians have the right to be informed and involved in matters affecting their children, and the responsibility to collaborate with the school to promote positive behavior and consistent expectations.
So this is, I think, a place where the like dignity and respect could go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not, so these bullet points all say have the right, they all start with that, but there is like the responsibilities. I guess they also say that. But yeah, this is a great place for it to say staff have the responsibility to, you know,
Yeah, like what Shibari was saying, right?
respect.
Yeah.
Nice, we can make that note. Other thoughts on that part?
I'm moving a little bit away in my own thinking about this idea of reinforcing, because it's another way of control. Might just say support positive conduct as opposed to reinforce positive conduct.
Where was that, Sue?
It's the second bullet.
Second bullet point.
Do you say support? Is it
Support
yeah.
instead of reinforce.
It's like a more positive word about positive conduct.
Because you want it to be internal, not because the adults have good jobs. You want it to be,
Right.
I am a positive.
No.
That's a
definition of
small point.
Fun fact, the definition of reinforce is, no, it's a really interesting thing. Now you're making my brain really,
Behavior.
it's strengthen or support. That's what the
So
word
there you go,
reinforce is. But to your point, that's important because other people read it differently.
Well, I would read it in the
Yeah.
behavioral sense of reinforce means increase of behavior.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a teachery thing, like that, because you all use that word in a different context sometimes. Noted. It's good.
I feel like the word responsible is used too many times in the first bullet point. Like coming off the intro section. It's not a big deal. It just feels a little repetitive.
He's trying to do the like mirroring kind of thing, but I don't have a strong feeling either way.
Yeah, I mean, this is responsible choice in one sentence, we can do better. I do like that as it goes down to like culling out the responsibilities, that it is the expectation, not the adverse. So like it's saying like, hey, you're expected to treat all members of the school committee with respect and dignity, instead of jumping right into when you don't treat everyone, like it's setting the expectation first, which I think is good, because then when you're working with this document, you can say like, hey, like this is what students are expected to do, and this is why what you did does not align with our expectations, and we need to work through what that looks like. So I like that it starts in that context a lot.
I mean,
The
still,
bullets, though,
the
yeah.
teacher bullet is pretty, has a lot of like negative connotations, you know?
Is that the one that's the school department one?
Yeah, just, you know, so adequate control of students, I don't know, that seems kind of weird to me.
Which one, where's that one?
Maybe it's in the old one, not in the new one, cause I'm looking at the old one.
Oh, yeah, no, it got rephrased. So teachers are expected to manage classroom behavior through relationship building, redirection, classroom-based interventions, and communication with
Yeah.
families.
Cool. It's just like I said, like the word choice, they changed it from control to manage. I don't know. To me, it's like tomato, tomato, but it's just, it just doesn't seem like a conversation point, and it doesn't seem like a problem-solving mindset. It seems like a more of like, it's my way or the highway mindset.
So, like, do you think it would sound better if it were teachers are expected to implement relationship building, I mean, do you
Have
think
conversations,
that's,
you
well, that's
know.
in there,
We
yeah.
can note the word manage. Manage has a like power dynamic word to it, so
Yeah,
you can
like
think
maybe.
about that.
But I always agree with the modality you were talking about, is less is more. So, like, if my idea adds more words, then keep manage. Like, I do like the idea of managing words.
No, but if you tell someone to manage something,
Mm,
that is,
get it under control.
there's a word, yeah, that word has a lot of power to it, so I don't disagree that manage could be really.
Yeah, I like that idea. Of like,
Mhm.
I think it's definitely better than adequate control, but I still think it's, there could be some room to change
My
that.
big, like, I'm way too verbose. My big modality is, I think everyone should have a say at the table. Like, you know, a parent should have a say. You shouldn't be telling them to like live with it or fight it. It should be like, why are we not problem solving together? Because the parent can add solutions that we can't, because like the elephant in the room with a discipline policy is that's been for the past 15 years is RIDE and schools do not want to suspend a kid. And so that's why the MacGyver things of like, you can get suspended but still make up all your work. And then we come to parents and we just say to them like, it's either suspension or live with it. And like we don't get like creative, you know? And then the student can get creative too, of like, hey, you know, one of the reasons I keep cutting is because I'm in a class that bores me to tears. Maybe if you let me take a different class, I might not cut as much. And so we don't have those discussions. We just have like problem celebrations instead of problem solving. We have like, here's this problem, let's catastrophize it, let's talk about it, let's label it, and then move it down the road. And even teachers talk like that a lot. They'll be like, I shouldn't have to go and justify myself. I'm a teacher, show me respect. I gave the kid a discipline report, support me, administration. And then it's like, no, like you said this problem is too big for you to handle, so you should have to answer for it. Sorry, not sorry. You know, and that's why when a teacher watches this, they will not be happy with me. So, but hey, it is what it is.
But, do you think, because they have a piece there about communication with families, but shouldn't it say students as well?
Yeah, and also the communication with the families. Are you calling home to inform them, or are you calling home to discuss
work
it?
together, yeah,
You know, like it's like
I
our
don't know if they
plagiarism
can get
policy.
that.
Are you calling home to inform them, or are you calling home to discuss?
No, best practice is obviously to discuss. I don't know if you can get that
Yeah, that's fine.
drilled down in
And
a,
I worry about like
in
what
a
is it?
policy.
I wonder if like
What
including,
I worry about is implied norms. That like the intent might be you call home to discuss, but the past practice is that you call home to inform.
Mhm.
Yep, so I
So-
noted inform versus discuss. What were
would
you
it
gonna
be
say,
too
Will?
difficult to add in like problem solving in it? Like if you're trying to solve problems and have like everybody have a voice at the table and solve the problem as
I
a
like that.
community? Would that be too hard to include? Cause that would kind of like circle around all the things you were saying.
I also wrote down, kind of going off of what you were talking about, is like some sort of concept of like understanding the why.
Yes.
Like, you know, like that the intent of whatever is happening is try to understand like the root cause or like the why. What do you think, Shivali?
I'm just this is great, like it sounds all nice and rainbow, however, when things happen, there has to be policy language that backs up things, and there has to be a level of, here's what happened, here's where we're going next, we can have a conversation, but we can't have everybody chiming in what happens now. There has to be some, in reality, that's not how this works. I mean, it's nice to, like, we're sitting in a room where everything is perfect, everything is good, you know, we're all reasonable right now, but a lot of things happen in reality.
Yeah, so tell me more about like what would be the barriers, cause I completely understand, like I respect
So
the
one would be, I'll give you a barrier, somebody did something quite unsafe to another student, whatever that be, and you wanna have a conversation with everybody at the table, and you can't get everybody at the table. Your phones are not working, email's not working, she's not gonna go down and knock on the door and say, why don't you come down to the school? So there's a safety issue that needs to be planned around, so it could result in a suspension, and you can't necessarily get all the people at the table for problem solving before you need to administer the suspension. Would be one that I would think, I don't know if that's what you're thinking about, but usually for us, we're little, you know, usually it's around safety and that really we need a hot minute to get our act together. No, I don't mean like that, our act is pretty together, but we need to make a plan so that we can make sure everybody's safe. That's really the only time we ever suspend anybody, so we have time to make a plan to ensure safety. But you might not be able to get everybody at the table before you need to do that. I don't know, that's what I would say.
That's helpful, thank you. Shivali, did you have a thought on that? Like about,
I'm just thinking of like the various situations that happens throughout the day. And like really trying to get everybody to come on the table, like, do we call home and have a conversation? Absolutely, like that always happens and should happen. But at the end of the day, we have to implement consequences along with restorative services. And there has to be a decision maker a little bit that says, here's what's happening. Because both sides will say, no, that's not, like, my kid didn't do this, my child didn't do, so we have to have some little bit of like a concrete direction and policy language to back us up when
And yeah, that
people
teacher
disagree.
came at you with a tone, but it still wasn't okay to throw
Yeah.
correct.
But the
throw
only,
a mug at his head.
the only problem I have with the logistics of that is like what happens in reality is the teacher makes a thing in Aspen, then the authoritative figure, be it a dean or administrator, goes and talks to the student in their room, gets their point of view, then they have a meeting with the parents and the administration with the discipline outcome. I just don't understand logistically why the discipline outcome has to be stated before the meeting. Like, I understand like what you're saying, but you pull the kid out of the room, and so the kid's out of the room one more day because you couldn't get the meeting before the label is applied. Like, all I'm saying is, like, I'm not saying that you don't give them the outcome. I'm saying you keep the outcome fluid, just like we do
But
in
you
most
can't exclude
criminality.
them unless you
Like,
suspend them.
before you suspend them.
But you can't. You
You
can't
can't
suspend them
disremove.
before.
But
you
we
can't
don't
exclude them
we
before.
can't really suspend kids right now anyway. I mean, like, you can
Yes, you can.
force them out of school and stuff, but you know, like when you suspend a kid, it gets. I just know currently the system is like you'll get an email as a teacher that a kid was suspended and they're out for 5 days, and then they come back and you've never had a conversation with the kid, you never had an idea with anyone.
Yeah,
And
that's
then you're just sitting there like, how are we helping you be successful? Because I have no context of your behaviors, I have no, and then we don't have communication. Like, there's just so much telephone game and there's so much like labeling before people have discussed it, and I just feel like you get a lot of feedback when people are talking with each other, you know, because you'll see the teacher's tone, you'll see that they can't make eye contact with the student, you'll see that the student can't make eye contact with the teacher, so then you're not playing the he said, she said game, you're literally like that's what we do in trials, like you have a jury of your peers, they sit there, you have to sit there, everybody has to see each other, like a witness has to say something to everybody, because there's a lot of info, like I always believe in being an active listener, and sometimes active listening is also eye contact, body language, and that will teach you a lot, that then you can make a more informed decision. I don't agree, I'm not saying that you make that decision with everyone at the table, I'm saying like then make the decision with administration on the QT and confidentiality, but before that decision is made, why not have that meeting with everyone at the table discussing it and then do the thing? Like I'm not saying you make the decision there. I'm not saying that the parent says, hey, I want my kid to just go to Stop and Shop and not get suspended, and you agree to it. I'm just saying that then you would bring it to the table of like, hey, the parent said this and let's discuss it.
So what I'm hearing on that one is, it seems like there's multiple things happening, right? So there's a volume part of it, right? Like of like the amount of things that might be happening, and also to the different varieties too, right? Like there's a very big difference between a small thing that needs to be addressed and a big thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm hearing that piece of it. I'm hearing when does the discipline, like the consequence, for lack of a better word, get assigned in the process. So that's something I think that needs to be thought about in the thing of kind of what you're saying of like, are they defending the thing? Like, is it saying like, hey, you did this, we're recommending suspension. And then I've heard you say like, then the parents are like, well, no, my kid didn't do that. Like they're almost trying to, because the consequence is so high that they're then trying to make it so that there is no consequence because like like you know what I mean?
The other thing, the thing I think I got lost in the translation because I'm so verbose is I'm not talking about tardies. I'm not talking about like a kid swearing to a teacher. I'm talking about like a repetitive pattern that gets to suspensions, that gets to a serious outcome. And granted, somebody can do something so violent or so bad that it goes right to the big meeting moment, but I'm not talking about a proclivity because that's like catastrophizing it or a straw man argument. I'm talking about what we're talking about is like a high suspension rate for a certain student that keeps happening. Like we have all that context and degree of be like, it ain't working, like, you know, we
that's
keep
interesting to me because I think that I don't know how suspensions work at the high school in terms of what is actually, you know, I don't have that context. One thing though, I think going back to what you really seem to be talking about is this, which I actually think you raised, is you're talking about a restorative, you know, kind of a restorative system. One of the things when you do a restorative system, at least because we do baby restorative stuff in elementary school, is the child and the parent typically, unless it's a safety issue, have an option to do a restorative path or a traditional discipline path. If you take a restorative path, they have to, for want of a better word, allocate to what the problem was. They have to say, yes, I take responsibility. This is my behavior and I am going to make it right. Right? So you get rid of all the kind of investigation if you go into a restorative path. Whereas a traditional discipline, nope, I'm not doing that. You know, then it gets more into all the other stuff that you do in traditional discipline, which I think is a lot of what you're saying. Here it is, I get all my evidence, I decide the best I can based on the evidence what should the consequence be. And that doesn't solve problems, and that isn't going to make it better for some, really for no kid, but that's another issue.
But I don't think these two things are
No,
mutually exclusive.
they're not.
Like, what does need to happen is and I think that I got a little bit misinterpreted, I may not have said it properly. I absolutely think that there needs to be, the consequence and the restorative piece need to go hand in hand. If you are just leaving it all up to restorative, you're gonna lose the consistency right away. It's gonna be dead in the water, so I think that, yeah, so, because there are some parents that can be very convincing and you might get swayed, and so I do think that there has to be that solid consequence piece, but I think it needs to be paired with the restorative piece, and I think that communication with the parent, what I was talking about, is with the restorative piece. The parent needs to work with the teacher, with the administrator on the restorative piece. I don't think they need to weigh in on the discipline piece, I think they need to weigh in on the restorative piece.
And also, I agree with that even further, that I think we have records of everything. There should always be context and degree. Like, you know, like if this is like, and that's the one problem like teachers have had with restorative practices in the high school, is they don't see the needle move forward, and they're like, okay, so that didn't work, why are we doing it again? You know, so there's that part too of like, what do they need? So
But
I like what you said.
Yeah, restorative practices though, like, don't happen overnight. It
No,
takes
I
a
know.
while because it's a behavior change. And so you are going to see repeated behaviors, you know what I mean? But I don't think anyone here can say that you're not gonna see those repeated behaviors if you suspend somebody.
I know.
And they're gonna come back and do the same thing, you know what I mean? So at least putting a lot of emphasis on that change of behavior, everyone's kind of focusing their energy in the right way.
And that problem solving.
Communication
Because that's what you're
all.
really talking about, is problem solving.
Mhm.
Problem solving at the high school is hard, because you're talking about, you know, a bunch of people getting together and solving a problem and walking away. And yeah, that's tough. That's tough. I mean, you would think that you'd get 5 teachers in a room and they would agree. Has anybody ever seen that happen? You know, they won't. So if you're talking about all, I don't know, how many, in the high school level, how many teachers does a kid have,
7.
right? So then well, that's a whole nother, and we're probably getting to the nitty gritty of how you would do restorative, so we'll step away from it, but I can totally see why you're like, whoa, you know?
I also think the undercurrent that like is always like the whispered truth in the room is a lot of discipline policies and a lot of interactions lack trust. Like that you don't trust the parent to want the best well-being for the student in the long term. The teacher doesn't trust like that they're being heard. The student doesn't trust like that they're being heard. So a lot of it is like, you know, Simon Zenek's very big on like interpersonal relationships, and that's what he always says, like the basis of a lot is trust. Like trust that you know, like I'm trying, like with restorative justice, I'm trying, and that's why a lot of problems I've had in the high school historically, because I've been there forever, is just like transparency. Let me know the process. Let me know you're working on it. You know, we're all under the confidentiality agreement if you're a teacher. Like, let me know you're working on it so that I can know that you're trying to move the needle with restorative practice. And then people just like throw the terms around a lot of times, and they don't like bring people to the table. And a lot of times you will literally hear me in meetings just being like, why wasn't I involved? Why didn't I even know about it? Why didn't I even get a voice? And I know that parents feel that way because I call every single parent who I have, and that's what I always talk. I always call home with a question. I never call home with a statement, and almost every parent I call says, thank you for calling with a question, because 1, I've never gotten a phone call before, and 2, I've never gotten a phone call. And by the way, never is an emotional construct, because we know that's not true either. But they also say, like, people call home to tell me something. They don't call home to ask me something. So, and again, I will say that's an emotional construct. I know there are teachers who call home and ask questions.
No, but even you saying it made me really think a little bit about how I do my practice. I'm like, what am I calling about? Let me have my question ready. So you talking about that here made me be more conscientious about thinking about it in advance of calling home. So, you know, your point is well taken. It's just a matter of how do we make this, I don't even want to say it, but how do you make it like literally doable? You know, how do you make it doable? And I mean, it might be something like there's 2 paths. There's a traditional discipline class and a conscious discipline class, and teachers that are willing to participate in conscious discipline. I don't know. Again, kind of probably moving off this, although to have a shared understanding here of what we want to see in this is probably pretty important.
I think it says it briefly in prevention and intervention, but I guess we probably be requesting to add an additional section about restorative practice into it. It just says
Where are
engage
you?
with students and
Prevention and
families.
intervention, page
Intervention.
4.
Sorry, got it.
Yeah, it says in order to identify, understand, and address the root causes of behavior, you have to engage with the student and the families. So maybe that has to
And that's
be
all new.
section,
Um,
section
Cool.
before suspension.
Yep, and that part's all new, which I think is good, because it is talking, because that's, like the prevention and intervention part definitely, I think somewhere needs to be in here.
Yeah, it has to be more prominent, I guess. As I was saying, I would streamline, like, I like that we open up with student responsibilities and then go from there.
With what, the student responsibilities?
Like, when we started reading this student responsibilities, like, it's just like straight to the point, so we have that. And then we have the restorative practices, like prevention, intervention, and then we go to, suspension.
What I think is interesting about this from a like mom perspective is like we go from in this document responsibilities, great, we're setting the responsibilities of all the people involved in this space. Then you go to prevention intervention, which is new, and then it has the little section about disciplinary actions, and then the first thing that is noted is suspension.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like
There's
a
no
lot.
like,
Yep,
there needs to be like a
we're missing
tiering.
something.
Yeah, like a
Or
tiering, like,
matrix, tiered matrix.
yeah.
And again,
like a
policy
tier-
is not procedure though, and that is a different
Yeah.
differentiation I have to make a lot, but I do think, and I know why it's in here, it's because when there's a law, the
Yeah.
16-17 addresses suspension, so like that's why, but like, it's literally saying like this is the last resort, but it's the only one that's outlined in any way, and so I do think we have to give that feedback to the policy committee because that is weird to me as a mom, like that it goes right there.
That's been,
Yeah.
cause I'm reading through the suspension section and it seems very specific about being a last resort and it's like, you know, if you're a major, what?
Like, where were the other resorts?
Yeah, right. But it seems disjointed from the section right before it, which is, 7 bullet points.
I would
It
say
doesn't-
though, if you look at, so there's mention of tiered systems in prevention and intervention. And I think the way I'm looking at this suspension part, and maybe it's too long, but I think it's trying to get at like what suspension doesn't mean. Like I think it's trying to get to the opposite, like it's saying things like suspension still means they have rights.
Yeah, which is
I think
important.
that's what he's trying, I think it's trying to get to, and I think it's too long, I don't think it needs to be that long, but I think it's trying to capture, if suspension happens, there's still.
Yeah, you still have these rights, but like to Erin's point, like if I am a mom, but like if I was a mom and I was looking at like, I would wanna know, like, if Malcolm screwed up in this way, what was gonna happen to him, right? Like, and I would look to the discipline policy to see, and I would go, oh, well, he's fine as long as he doesn't do something to get himself suspended, which is not true. But according to the policy, it is, because it doesn't mention anything
About other things.
other things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so
And
like
yeah.
the matrix, like we have a matrix
Right.
Yeah,
that
but the
we
matrix
use,
is a policy.
but I don't think it goes in
But we
here.
could
Yeah.
say, like,
There
you
is,
know,
yeah, like the policy could say, the district needs to have the administration needs to maintain a
Yes.
matrix that outlines different tiers of discipline,
Yes.
and clearly defines it for
Yes.
families,
Yeah.
like that's where the policy versus the procedure
Yeah.
has to be different.
yeah.
Um,
But it should acknowledge the fact
Yeah.
that, like, there are, like, lower tiers of discipline
Yeah.
than
In fact,
suspension.
I could use this to say the opposite and say that teachers are expected to manage the classroom behavior. Like my son, he, it's not his fault. Teacher was
Didn't manage, so that's why we ended up here.
mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. We can definitely think about that. For the suspension piece too, I don't see anything in this language about what Sue was talking about, of that students are getting suspended to buy time for safe reentry. So that's something that I think, if that is a practice that is happening, we need to address that somewhere in this policy. You know what I mean? Like that, like, you know what I mean? Like if,
I think it's in here.
which sentence?
You're talking about they're being suspended due to safety reasons?
Ongoing threat to the safety or
Yeah,
well-being
out of
of
suspension
themselves,
shall be
other
considered
students,
only the
staff.
last resort and only when the student's behavior poses a serious and or ongoing threat to the safety of themselves or well-being of others.
Okay, I read it different, I guess, of what I heard. It's basically like a time to come up with a plan is different than that sentence to me.
I I think, but that's the rule under which they're able to do it, because it's a serious safety threat, so that's why they're able to suspend them.
Because if you just need timeout, you really can't suspend them.
No.
No, you can't suspend them just because you,
Yeah.
it's only after, yeah, yes, you're
You
right.
know what I mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, you're right, you can't preventatively say, we need a couple
You
days.
can't tell someone.
You know?
No.
Yeah,
You're right.
You know,
I need
figure
a
that out.
timeout.
But
yeah. I see what- yeah.
in the event of a serious
Yes.
safety threat, they are suspended while you formulate a safety plan
Yes.
for them to come
Yes,
back into the
exactly.
class.
That's it.
Which is
Yes.
generally what happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's what that is referring to. Not, you know what, we need a break for a few days.
Yeah.
No, and it wasn't saying that, but I do
No, I know
think,
what you mean,
Yeah.
but you're right, bring it
Um,
up.
And it also, the second bullet also says, other appropriate support and disciplinary interventions have been attempted and
Attempted, yeah.
proven ineffective,
Yes.
so it does refer that. I think it's just mixed in a, not a cohesive way.
I think this is probably pulled right from the statute.
yeah,
That's
so
what it looks like.
And then it actually goes to the appeal process.
I'm still on suspensions, hold on. When does suspensions end? Is it 3 pages? So it starts on,
Yeah, it ends at the
Page
top of
5.
page 6.
yeah, so it goes on page 5, then it's on page 6,
And then 8,
and
It's
then we've
long-term
got
suspension.
And then you've got
long-term
long-term
suspension on 8.
yeah.
Then I'm on 9, and it references the school committee hearing, but it's the school committee hearing,
For long-term suspension.
yeah. And then, so now we're on page 10. We're still on
This-
suspensions.
This like very, in great detail, describes suspension and long-term suspension, but no other, nothing that comes before those steps is outlined. Which I guess it's outlined.
Yeah, okay, so we'll
elsewhere,
get that feedback. 5 pages of suspension is a lot too.
but, like, on the second bullet point under suspension, where it says other appropriate supportive and disciplinary interventions, like, that piece, I don't feel like is totally described in the section immediately before it.
Which piece? This is
Like,
what
the first 7 bullet points under disciplinary action.
This is like a little bit maybe too radical. It's not really, but it might be. Why isn't there just a suspension policy and all the other ones separate? Because like this is the tail wagging the horse if it's all about suspension in this policy. Why can't there be 2 policies, a suspension policy and the discipline policy refers to the suspension policy?
That is a valid point, we know that. My counter to that always is like, I try to have fewer policies and more, and
I
like,
hear
if you're talking about discipline, like, but, like, maybe the way that it's organized or something.
Well, the other thing I was gonna say is I don't know if we wanna have the whole statute written out in the policy, because if the statute changes, then if
You
we
can't
have,
do that.
so we could probably condense that part
Yep.
and just say, as
Reference
per
the statute.
statute, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And that cuts down some.
I was thinking that, just have the statute,
Yeah.
maybe with a hyperlink
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
statute.
Yeah.
And I
Like you
think,
could
As
do that.
outlined in
Yeah.
statute.
I think the reason this is all laid out is because you have to, because when you suspend somebody, that means you are saying, like, you cannot be in school. That's like a big line you're crossing. And so when you do that, you have to like lay out all the details that goes with it, including the rights, including how they appeal, including how the process works.
Should you have
why-
a pamphlet to give to parents or something as opposed to, I don't know.
So do you
So
hand
the
them a
child
copy of the
gets
policy?
No, so what we do is we take parts of the policy and then we update sections of the
Yeah.
handbook where things apply. So we have a suspension section in the handbook
So maybe we
that's
should
separate.
have
So
a
you do have
separate
a separate
suspension
We have a
policy.
separate section in the handbook, so we will take this language and plug it in there.
Maybe we should do 2 then.
We have a matrix,
So what
but
I think, I'm thinking about like what might be missing. There's definitely, I think in this policy, something that's missing about the process flow chart. Like, about kind of like an incident happens, and then these are like,
Steps.
yeah, like kind of some of the steps are like, these are like, there's something, we're not telling the folks that are responsible for it anything about, like, there's no policy about that, so like it literally is up to a lot of interpretation, and then there's also no clear understanding from students or parents of like if that process was violated or not. If that makes sense.
Cause like, so if I'm thinking about, this is like a conduct policy, right? And so like, we're saying, this is our expectation of people's behavior, rights, responsibilities, social norms, for lack of a better term, right? And then if you break them, and we don't even know what them is because we haven't outlined them, other than rules, respect, things like that, right? These are the consequences, but we're not outlining them. We're saying that those are defined at the school level, like in the handbooks.
Yeah, so I was talking about like I was thinking about the one that I have at my work for process. So like incident involving student like occurs, right? That's step one of the process. And then it has like incident reports are submitted, like so like you put the incident report into Aspen or wherever it goes. And then it says like for some first time violations, like small ones, littering, noise, whatever, then goes through this process. And then other ones are like an informal meeting happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. You know, like it kind of like outlines what that process.
Yeah.
Yeah, like progressive
should
step.
have that,
Yeah, like
yeah.
I feel like a student, like you don't know if you haven't gotten
No.
treated with the due process, if you don't know what the due
If
process
you don't know what
is.
the due process is.
So I feel like that's something we need to, I'm not talking to the granular level,
No,
but like,
just, yeah.
like,
This is how a
yeah, similar to
discipline
the appeal
conduct
process,
record
but before
gets-
we get to
yeah.
the appeal process, like this is like,
This is how you actually get a discipline record set up.
something like that I think is missing.
I mean, the other two issues that always come to mind with me is like a school, like is supposed to prepare you for like society and college and career, and I just historically, it weighs on me sometimes that like a simple behavior, when repeated, like ends up in a more serious outcome. Like I get that you're trying to like teach them like real world things, that like if you keep being late to a job every day, you're gonna get fired. But like, is that like a disciplinary event that like labels you as a person that should go into Aspen or something? Like I struggles with that. And like, I'm not saying that what I mean by that is like when a teacher references it to Aspen, they're saying it's a problem that they can't solve, but there's also a bias there of like, why are you still making it a problem? You know, like the kid's late, you know, you tried to handle it, you could, you emailed the administrator, you emailed the guidance counselor, you talked to the parent about it, and you still keep recording it, but then to like make a discipline referral that the kid is constantly late, and then have it go through the discipline process, it's just like, I don't know, because to me it's not the same as a student who can't self-regulate, or someone who can't not F-bomb you when you ask them a question. Like, it's just not the same thing. And when we're trying to, like, for example, there's jobs out there, I've worked in construction work, where you can swear all the time, every day, every moment, and no one cares, and that's part of the norm. So that's what I mean by like a social norm. Is it a violation of a social norm, or is it a violation of what we think is a social norm of the school paradigm?
Right.
Basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, like tier one, like, I don't wanna use tier, cause that's the other thing, but like, where on the continuum of
Yes.
like infractions does it really lie? And is it a safety issue, is it
Yes.
yeah. Okay, I wanna be respectful of everybody's time, it's 7:00. Does anybody else have anything like relevant to this? Clearly, we're not done with this discussion. If anybody has like specific like points or comments that they wanna send to me, like if anybody has like made highlighted notes or anything, send them to me, and I'm happy to like incorporate them with what I bring back at the next meeting, which is March 18th. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? I will second, all in favor?